Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of LARP Analysis. Now on today's video I'm going to be introducing to you the basic game lore and backstory of the LARP I'm going to be attending called Armistice Arcane. Now there is quite a lot of lore to this game, so I'm going to try and condense this down onto the really crucial bits. Now I'm going to divide this video into two sections. The first is going to be on the general game background and the history, and the second one is going to be on the factions themselves that exist in the game world. So the basic plot of Armistice Arcane is that all the different magical cabals and institutes that exist in America are conglomerating together in New Orleans to form an armistice. These factions often have quite a lot of rivalries with each other, have their own background and histories that makes them butt heads, but the general plot is that there is some sort of magical force that's out there that the North American societies believe would be prudent to form an agreement to see if they can deal with these things. So to go a little into the actual world backstory, the American societies of magic originate in about the early 1600s. This is of course due to the presence of the British and other Europeans colonising the Americas. Now in the game world there is something called the Arcanum. Now Arcanums are basically magical governments. Think Ministry of Magic from Harry Potter. Now in these early 1600s periods, the Americans formed their own Arcanum based on the different groups of magicians that came over from the different lands and the different styles of magic that exists. Now while membership in the Arcanum isn't mandatory as such, it was very much a case of if you were part of the Arcanum, you enjoyed all of the Arcanum's benefits. So that means that if you were an independent magician, you would have probably quite likely been hunted by the various witch hunters that were pervasive in North America at the time. Cough cough Salem witch trials. The only exception to this is one of the groups I'll talk about later on in the video. Now this original first Arcanum met its end around about, well, the late 1700s because of a little event in history known as the American Revolution. The high-ranking members of the Arcanum in general were all patriots, so it wasn't the actual America splitting from Britain that was the thing that drove the Arcanum apart. So after the split of the American colonies from Britain, a powerful curse was put on this Arcanum by a group known as the Atlantean Accord, which is effectively the British Ministry of Magic. Now while it wasn't completely confirmed that it was the Atlantean Accord that put this curse on the Arcanum, what is known is that the curse was put. The exact way that this curse operated was unknown, but it seemed to be a curse to just eventually break up the Arcanum in general, and no matter what the Arcanum could do, they couldn't find a way to dispel the curse. So either as a result of this curse, or perhaps independently of it, small rifts began to appear in the Arcanum as infighting occurred, and a group called the Sentinels, who are your witch hunters, started hunting around smaller mages, and eventually this led to the breakup of the Arcanum. This breakup occurred in the very early 1800s. So this breakup of the American Arcanum led into the different factions that you'll see in the game. Over the past 70 years in the game world, since the Arcanum broke up, there have been lots of infighting still between different groups and different factions, and it's only through this perceived bigger threat that these factions are going to start to come together and hopefully work out some sort of armistice. Hence the title, Armistice Arcane. Yeah? So to summarise very briefly, before the American Revolution there was a sort of American government that was formed in the colonies. After the American Revolution, this government was cursed and eventually broke up. And in the modern day, 70 years after this previous break, the different factions are trying to come together to hopefully form a new Arcanum. And that is the plot of Armistice Arcane. So now to the actual factions. Bear in mind that as I am part of one of the factions, I will have privy knowledge of that faction's operation, whereas people from other factions will have their privy knowledge of that faction's. So this video is to sort of give a sense of the general sort of themes that you'll expect to see from each of the factions. So obviously if I'm going to do an information dump on the Cirque du Freak, that's obviously not going to be as much information that you would get as if you were part of the Cirque du Freak. There's only so much that I can do. So following on from that, let's talk about the Cirque du Freak. Now, the Cirque is kind of like your stereotypical travelling carnival sort of thing. They have freak shows, performance, tightrope walkers, that sort of stuff, you know. If I said carnival folk, you'll know what I mean. So that's the facade that they give to the mundane population. But to those who are enlightened, or blessed with magic, they have a certain other function. They are well known as information brokers, saboteurs, spies, thieves, all of these sorts of things. These are your mercenary gang. All of the different factions that you'll see in this video have likely employed their services at one point or another, and they only ever serve the highest bidder. So this faction is headed by a character known as Uncle Theo. Now no one really knows about Uncle Theo, no one knows what he looks like, what he even is like, but there are lots of rumours going around about him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to these rumours when the game actually comes around. So now we have the Esoteric Institute. Now this institute is your stereotypical magical scientists group. So these are your people who use this sort of steampunk magi technology that you get in these sorts of weird and wonderful worlds. These guys, I love steampunk so much, so the idea that there's going to be a group based around steampunk magicians is just, huge fan. These groups host magical symposiums every year in Louisiana, where the game's held. And these symposiums incorporate from all around the world different magical inventions that people have been working on and the different things that the East Institute has been doing over the past year. As a result of its presence in Louisiana, this means that this group is the host for the Armistice talks. This group is largely unaligned, but some of their members are known to be defectors from the other groups, so it'll be interesting to see how these dynamics play out in the actual game. Now we have the Theosophical Society. This is the society that I'm part of, so you'll be seeing me talking about this group probably a little bit more in the next few weeks. Now this is an upper society club for the rich and famous, for the lords, the dukes, the barons. However, for much of its early history, it was known to be a club for the old, the amateur, and the poser, which means this group was not taken seriously at all by the other societies. However, a few years before Armistice Arcane is actually set, so this is about 2 or 3 years ago in the game lore, a few very powerful sorcerers raised to prominence in the society, and this revolutionized the society almost overnight. They began a campaign to usurp power sites and ley lines from other groups. They most notably took the power seat of New York from the White Horse Adventurers Club, which I'll talk about later. They used their bad reputation so that no one would actually suspect it was them doing anything until it was already too late. So they're quite a group of sneaky fellows they are, aren't they? I'll have to play about them. It'll be good fun, good fun. So this group is definitely a little bit sneaky, but I'm sure they'll be fine and more than noble and defiant to your face. Next up we have the White Horse Adventurers Club, as mentioned previously in the one with the Theosophical Society. This group has one really easy way to define them, and I'm loath to use it because it's really lazy, but it just sums them up so perfectly, and that is a group of Indiana Jones. Magical Indiana Jones. These are your explorers, archaeologists, tomb raiders, all that good stuff. This is a very elite and exclusive club, so while they are all around the world, searching through old tombs and old temples and learning magic from natives all across the world, there are very strict entry requirements to be part of this group. However, the entry requirement is simple, but it's of course fulfilling that requirement that is hard. And the requirement is this: bring us something that we have never seen before. It's that level of exclusive. As a result of these people being so far-flung across the world, they have a very diverse pool of magical talents and abilities. So it'll be very interesting to see what sort of magic people bring to their characters and bring out in the game. Next up we have the Order of CERNUNNOS. I don't know if that's pronounced right, so for convenience sake I'm going to call them the Order of the Horned God, because this group is descended from your pagans and your druids, from Irish and Scottish immigrants to America, so expect these guys to be very in tune with nature and ley lines and very naturalist sort of magic. They are very secret and very secluded. This is doubly so because this was one of the groups that was never part of the original Arcanum. So these guys have always been sort of lurking in the background, sort of just kind of being there, with no one paying too much attention to them. This makes it extra interesting for why they're actually coming to the Armistice talks in the first place. So it'll be very interesting to see how players will be doing that. Next up we have the Beacon Hill players, and I have a soft spot for this group because I studied theatre in my, what you guys would call high school, and I love this jam. So the Beacon Hill players are effectively a magical theatre troupe. Not quite like the Cirque du Freak, these guys are more actors, your divas, your stage magicians, these sorts of performing arts. So you've got your singers, your musicians, that sort of stuff. It's just beautiful stuff. This is a Boston theatre troupe that was formed and sort of flourished after the Revolutionary War. So these guys really came to prominence after the Arcanum collapsed. These guys specialise in dramatomancy, which I believe is pronounced right, And this is the magic of the theatre, essentially. So their spells are about enrapturing an audience, bringing a story to life in their minds, and they also gain power from the imagination and fantasies of the audience that watch their stuff. And they use this power to then fuel their other magics. A big part of this group is the theatre superstition that comes from being a theatre troupe. And this is the part that I really love, because when I studied theatre, a lot of it was about the history and the different formative types of theatre that existed throughout the 20th and the 19th century. And a lot of this include really bizarre superstitions. For example, not being able to say Macbeth, saying break a leg, that sort of stuff, not being able to whistle in a theatre. These guys have their own version, and that is that they have a tradition where there must always be one lit candle somewhere in their theatre. For while there is a lit candle in the theatre has never once burned down. All that kind of good stuff. In addition, it is believed that their theatre is haunted by a spectre, and this spectre has been rumoured to actually provide critical thoughts and feedback on the plays that the players have been writing, and I just find that absolutely hilarious. It's also been rumoured that the spectre demands cast changes and plot alteration, and that's just a great mental image. Just imagine you're sitting down with your friends to write a play, and then a ghost pops out of a wall and goes, nah, Derek is going to be terrible as the lead, I want you to put in Jeffrey instead. That's a great mental image for me. It will never come into play in the actual game, but it's a nice lore background thing that I'm super about. Now next up we have the Sentinels. This group is almost totally unknown in earnest, but what they do is what's quite common knowledge. Now these are your witch hunters. These are the guys who find your sorcerers, your blood mages, your mind control necromancers, and these are the guys who take those guys out. They are likely church funded, but they are also quite low in number, is the rumour that I believe is going by at the moment. And one thing's for sure, these are not your fantasy paladins. These are your Van Helsings crossed with Batman, knight assassins of the supernatural and the mages who go too far. These people themselves are not magicians, but they do use magical trinkets and artifacts to fight. Again, alluding to the whole Batman thing, yeah? What's interesting about these guys is that they're another one of those secret societies, and no one really knows anything about them, who they are, and they are known to hunt down those who have supernatural talents. So it's very interesting that this group is going to be part of these Armistice talks. So hopefully some lovely drama, juicy stuff will be coming along from them. So last up we have the Eclipsed. Now the Eclipsed are a diverse bunch to say the least. These are effectively normal, innocent human beings who for whatever reason have had the veil of normality ripped from their eyes. This is likely because of some sort of supernatural event that they've experienced. Some example of their numbers can be lycanthropes, recently bitten vampires, ghouls, revenants, strange mutants, these sorts of things. So these are people who have been normal for most of their lives, who have had abnormalities thrust upon them. Despite being a group of misfits and outcasts, they have sort of begun to form a loose organizational structure recently. This is evidenced by the fact that this is pretty much the only group where sentinel attacks against them have been known and confirmed to fail. So this mutual desire of protecting one another has banded together this group of outcasts, and their shared lack of belonging to anyone else means that this group will likely be very tightly knit. I for one am extremely excited to see the different types of mutations, different types of afflictions that members of this group will possess, and I'm really excited to see what is going to come from this group. Just that's a basic summary of the backstory and of the factions that you'll be expected to see in Armistice Arcane. I'm very excited to be able to play this game because so many of the groups are just so different and so unique and so varied in their origins and in their theming that I'm really excited to see how they come to fruition in the actual game and how these groups can actually work together to form this Armistice. So that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you guys tune in to other videos that I've got in the future. And I'm just really excited to go to this game in the US, several thousand miles away. LARPing's not cheap, guys. Alright, so I'll see you guys in a future video then. Ta-ta.